By 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy about it. Why would you be happy about that? Well, turn off your brain and start listening, because we'll answer that question and more. Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, which is a group of the richest people in the world who want complete control of the world. Recently, Schwab endeared the world when he said, by 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy about it. Wow! That seems like a win-win, and he believes you're dumb enough to fall for it, and you kinda are. So here's how it'll work. Under the World Economic Forum's vision, governments and the super rich who already control the governments will own everything. That's a win for them. Meanwhile, you own nothing, which is a win for you, according to them. But you'll be allowed to rent things from the government that you need, like clothes, shelter, and a pacifier for your baby. You'll also receive an income from the government. Sounds great, doesn't it? This just in! We're already doing some of that. They're called stimulus checks. In this innovative vision of freedom, you'll be completely controlled by the government because you're completely dependent on the government. I smell a social credit score. Will there be a social credit score that requires you to be strictly obedient to the government in order to receive your meager rations? Like, I don't know. Does the World Economic Forum vision sound like socialism, communism, and totalitarianism? No, because they're calling it something different. The Great Reset, actually. First, let's be clear. For all of human history, socialism, communism, and totalitarianism has always worked swimmingly. It's never created super oppressed and abused people. 100% of the time, it's never done that. That's why you've always seen people from capitalist countries like the US risking their lives to flee to communist countries like Cuba. Or at least what the US used to be. And still is. Kinda. But if socialism, communism, and totalitarianism is so great, and indeed it is, why are some slightly skeptical about Klaus Schwab's agenda? Well, that question sounds like hate speech. So we'll gladly censor any attempt to even ask it. A better question that you're allowed to ask is, how are the very empowering to the people forms of government, such as totalitarianism, even accepted by the masses in the first place? Now that's a great question. And the answer that you're commanded to accept is, they prey on you by glorifying how great it would be if they took the burden of self-responsibility off your shoulders. Then you no longer have to create your own income, worry about food, or buy things, because those things take hard work. So wouldn't it be easier to let people rule over you so they can do those things for you? In addition, they also take away people's ability to work, even if they want to, which creates further dependency on the government. This just in! Over 100,000 small businesses in the US have closed because of the government-mandated lockdowns. This also just in! It's all probably just a coincidence. Meanwhile, strong people who are actually happy and successful suggest self-responsibility is what creates freedom and fulfillment, which means under Schwab's vision, you have no self-responsibility, which also means you have no freedom or fulfillment. And that's a good thing, because freedom and fulfillment are the principal sources of human suffering. This just in! We think you're dumb enough to let a guy who's never smiled in his whole life tell you what'll make you happier. So let's do the Great Reset. Now, does all this talk of the World Economic Forum wanting a socialist communist state for the entire world seem a little far-fetched? Maybe like a conspiracy theory? Well, it is. That's why on the World Economic Forum's own website, they're advocating for more Marxism. And if you're too mentally lazy to know what Marxism is, that's why it's all around you already. You've allowed it through your obedience. But don't worry, the water will soon get up to a full boil if you continue not recognizing what you're willingly sitting in. Why would Schwab and the super rich want to rule over you in such a totalitarian way? Well, that's not what they're doing, because they call it something different. The World Economic Forum uses cool propaganda to manufacture your consent. They use compelling and definitely not misleading words like sustainability, climate change, and improving the state of the world, because that's what they're doing. So why do they want to rule over you in a totalitarian way while you think they're doing something good for the world? Well, fact checkers have verified they would have no motive, because it's not like nefarious people who have acquired mega wealth would want more wealth and more possessions. And it's also not like if you owned nothing, then they would own everything. Literally everything. The reality is, you'll own nothing and be happy. And they'll own everything and be happier. This just in! Klaus Schwab was born in Nazi Germany in 1938. Guess the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree now, does it? But just remember, you won't be able to own apples either. The World Economic Forum recently had admirable and highly altruistic world leaders address their audience. World leaders like Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party. After his surprisingly pro-communism sounding address, he helped improve the state of the world by immediately having to return to China so he could continue not allowing World Health Organization investigators into his country. Acclaimed humanitarian Vladimir Putin also addressed the audience so they can aspire to be at his level. Putin's sustainability and climate control efforts have recently included having his chief political rival, Alexei Navalny, poisoned because he dared speak out against Putin. After the hit attempt failed, Putin simply had his chief political rival thrown in prison to help improve the state of the world. Putin's humanitarian efforts have recently been elevated even further, as it's recently been discovered that he had a $1 billion palace built for himself using Russian taxpayer money. When Russian citizens, who are very economically oppressed, were asked how they felt about Putin taking all their money to build a $1 billion palace for himself, they were quoted as saying, "We own nothing and we're happy about it." As we at this station are big fans of the World Economic Forum, we applaud Putin's efforts to beta test the exact model for the world that Klaus Schwab envisions. Also on the speaker list was one William Gates. Billionaire Billy recently became the largest farmland owner in the US. I, for one, feel safer with him also having a monopoly over the food supply now. With the elites controlling free speech, censorship, whether or not you can work, and now controlling the food supply, it feels like we're gaining more and more choice over whether or not we participate in a own nothing and be happy about it kind of world. This just in! Mark Zuckerberg is a member of the World Economic Forum. Just thought you should know that. Now, why didn't they have President Biden speak to their audience? Oh, I already said Xi Jinping. It's also unknown exactly what species Klaus Schwab's DNA comes from. Most scientists believe it's a hybrid sequence of a snake and a slug. Yet what is known is that people have spent the past year being very obedient to being afraid when they're told to be. This has likely given Schwab great reason to believe they'll also be very obedient when they're told to think they're happy. By 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy about it. With a complete lack of self-responsibility, an unwillingness to think for yourself, and continued obedience to power-hungry elites, you'll be doing a lot to help create this beautiful new world. Until next time, continue giving your power away. You'll find you get happier the worse your life gets. Good night. Before you go, I want to thank Blue Blocks for sponsoring this video. Now, did you know that humans need to sleep? Did you know it feels better to have good energy and to be healthy? Even birds know these basic facts about humans. That's why I love Blue Blocks. They help you get optimal sleep so you can have great energy and feel your best. I wear Blue Blocks every night because they're my favorite evidence-based blue light blocking glasses. And I also love using Blue Blocks' whole line of sleep and health enhancing products, like the Remedy Sleep Mask, the Lumi light bulbs, And the Hive red light therapy device to help me recover from injuries and reduce inflammation. I am not always smart, I assure you that. But one of the smart things I do for myself is I put on my favorite pair of blue blocks every evening as the sun's going down, which ensures me I am protected from blue light so I can get optimal sleep and wake up the next day with great energy, feeling my best. But here's a fact that birds don't know. My all-time favorite pair of blue blocks is the Sleep Plus lenses in the Maverick frames. If you want to join me in using blue blocks to help optimize how you feel and function, just go to blueblocks.com/JP and be sure to use the discount code JP to get 15% off.